Good morning, I'm Francois. I work for the European Organization for Rare Diseases in Paris, a large network of 740 patient organizations, and we are very much involved with the European Medicines Agency, and I'm going to explain how we work with the agency. The European Medicines Agency started its activities in 1995, and now we have more than 20 years of experience working with the agency. It evaluates the benefit risk of medicines for their authorization from the very early scientific advice, even before the clinical trial starts, to the evaluation and the authorization to be placed on the market and the monitoring of the medicines, the pharmacovigilance activities. This agency operates for the whole of the EU. They provide a single evaluation which is valid for 28 member states of the EU plus Norway and Iceland. It is mandatory for industry to apply for marketing authorization for several types of products, all products to treat HIV and AIDS, cancer, diabetes, neurodegenerative disease, immune dysfunction, viral disease as well. All advanced therapies, gene therapy, complex therapies like somatic cell therapy, orphan medicines, all treatments for rare diseases which receive orphan drug designation, and some veterinary products. In more than 20 years, it authorized almost 1,000 new products. It has 800 staff members. It operates with a large number of experts, and they are, for the moment, located in London, in the UK. And really, the EMA changed completely the way medicines are regulated in the EU. The first meeting with patient representatives was in April 1996, so immediately after its creation. And I've indicated here important milestones, like in 2000, where we obtained the new legislation for orphan medicines, and we asked for patients to be part of the decision making. And that is the case since year 2000, where patients are members of the committee that decides if a product is an orphan product or not. 2 years later, the EMA organized a larger workshop with more patient organizations to decide how we could work more systematically all together. And in 2006, the agency adopted a framework for the interactions with patients and consumers. In 2014, the agency created a dedicated department for interactions with patients and also healthcare professionals. And all this with the result that in 2016, on 770 occasions, patients and consumers were involved in one of the many EMA activities. So we moved from a situation where initially we had 12 member states. Each of them had their own procedure to authorize new medicines, to now a single network that evaluates the medicines, and their decisions, their opinions are valid in 31 countries, serving more than 500 million citizens. And all these citizens can use the same product. It has the same name, the same information, and all documents for the patients, the public, are reviewed by patients and consumers. We are involved in this agency based on the European Treaty that declares that transparency of the decision-making process strengthens the democratic nature of the institutions and the public's confidence in the administration. And that is exactly what we are doing at EMA. As witnesses of the process, we can ensure the voice of the patients is heard, and we can see how the agency operates and propose changes, improvements in the way medicines are regulated. So as I said, we moved from a situation where a first group of 6 patients met with the EMA back in 1996. It was a delegation of representatives of HIV and AIDS and they started a reflection with the EMA, with the scientific committee, on how medicines for HIV could be better evaluated. And from there, the EMA thought it was such a useful meeting. The EMA wanted to have a process to discuss, to have similar scientific discussions with other patient organizations. And last year in 2016, patients were involved in more than 770 occasions at the EMA. On this graph, you see the three main roles that patients have at the agency. We can be members of the scientific committees that make the decisions. And that is the blue columns. We can be consulted as individual experts on a product evaluation, and we can also be invited, consulted as representatives of our organizations when the EMA needs the official views of our organizations on different policies. So you see last year we had 60 patients who were members of committees or working parties at EMA, 433 patients who were consulted by the EMA on scientific advice meetings, for example, and 277 who represented their organizations in conferences, workshops, and other consultations. And you see there is an increase year by year. If we consider the scientific advice procedure, I won't be too technical, but these are extremely important discussions. They are early discussions in the development of medicines to make sure that the developer, the company that developed the products, conducts the research with highest chances that the results can be used by the regulators. With scientific advice, increases the chances that the product receives a positive opinion. And companies that take the risk of not having a scientific advice take the risk, an important risk of failing. And we have other committee consultations. For example, there's a new committee for pharmacovigilance, and they can consult specific patient organizations. So more and more these committees consult with patients. On the next slide, these are some documents that explains how the work is organized. I won't enter into details, but when you receive the presentation, you can consult the links. For example, we have a guidance and policy adopted by the management board explaining the role of patients as members of the EMA scientific committees. We have an annual report on the interaction with patients and consumers. That's part of the reporting. It's an important report. It explains all what we do at the EMA. And we have the important rules. For example, which criteria should our organizations fulfill to be eligible to work with the EMA? Which financial information we should declare to the EMA, to work with the EMA? And the rules for the renewal of our eligibility. And also there are documents and materials to train patients who participate in the agency's activities. There are videos, there are written documents that we produce with the EMA to help patients as much as possible to fulfill their roles in the EMA activities. There are many other documents, but I thought this one are some of the most important ones. An initiative that patients and consumers organizations took was to develop a code of practice between patient organizations and the healthcare industry. This is not a document of the EMA, but it's a document signed by patient organizations that work with the EMA, where we explain how we work with industry, what is the nature of the relation we may have with industry, to ensure strict rules to protect our independence. This independence is absolutely key, absolutely necessary for regulators to trust, to work with us in full confidence. And we invite all organizations to follow the rules. I won't detail this too much. It's quite a complex slide, but I think it's important. It explains that the patients are involved in the EMA activities all along the medicine life cycle. And you see this velvet round patient input shows that we are at all stages from the pre-submission, even before a company submits a marketing authorization application to the EMA. We are consulted. We can organize workshops, and different disease organizations have organized workshops with the EMA to discuss how to best evaluate a medicine for a disease, a rare disease or a common disease. And then when a company has submitted an application for marketing authorization, there are different committees that evaluate the application. There is a committee that looks at the pediatric aspects for the children, a committee, the PRAC, that looks at the safety aspects. If it's an advanced therapy, like a gene therapy, there is another committee which looks at the aspect, and at all stages we can be consulted. For the evaluation itself, we are now invited to the oral explanation between the developer and the committee that gives the opinion, positive or negative. We are consulted on the product information. We review all the information before the authorization, and after. We are also involved in the post-marketing monitoring of the medicines, the pharmacovigilance. There are many activities where we are involved, and we continue with all safety communications. For example, when there is a new identified side effect and the agency needs to communicate to the patients, we worked with the agency to disseminate the information. We are also developing with the EMA a mobile application for patients to report adverse drug reactions to their authorities. And this application is in use in the UK, Netherlands, and Croatia, and also in Zambia, and I think in Burkina Faso. These are the stages of patient involvement. It doesn't happen like that. There are steps to follow. First, and it's not the easiest one, you need to find patients. When there is a procedure, a discussion of a product, the first step is to find patients. And we have different procedures with the EMA. We help EMA to find the patients. And then when we have patients willing, interested to participate in a procedure, we need to prepare them, to train them. And then we need to accompany them sometimes to the meeting at the EMA because it's quite intimidating for some patients. So we go with them, we mentor them, we accompany them, and then we debrief with them. We ask them, how did it go? Do you think your opinion was listened to, etc.? And then we acknowledge their input in the different documents published by the EMA. There is a particular working group at the EMA, where you see here the structure that organizes it all. It's called the Patients and Consumers Working Party. We meet 4 times a year. And this group is composed of representatives of 20 patients and consumers organizations, and also representatives of all the scientific committees of the EMA. They are all listed here. One for pharmacovigilance, one for medicines for children, one for advanced therapies, one for orphan products, one for herbal medicinal product, and the final one that authorizes the medicines to be used in human, plus other staff of the agency. And all together, we discuss how to best involve patients in all these activities, what it means, what needs to be changed, what are the future projects, what are the research needed to have a high quality assessment of medicines, how to communicate to patients, how to change the package leaflet, for example. This is all discussed in this working party. These are all eligible organizations that are currently involved with the EMA. It's 36 of them. They cover a broad range of diseases. I won't detail them all, but if you click on the link, you can access to the description of all these organizations and how we work with the EMA in more details. Last year, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of this Patients and Consumers Working Party. And you have different pictures of the group of patients and EMA and scientific committee staff. And I think it's one of the European agencies with the longest experience working with patients and consumers now. In a way, it's a model. To finish, I'd like to say a few words on the factors on which this success are based. First, the high quality dialogue. And I would like to quote Professor Jean-Michel Alexandre, who was the first chair of the scientific committee at EMA, who said that with a high quality dialogue, patients and regulators can only agree. I think this is very true. It takes time to reach a high quality dialogue, but it's a matter of mutual understanding and mutual willingness to have this dialogue. But we all can certainly agree that patients are now considered on the same level than other experts consulted by the agency. Another success factor is the creation of a dedicated unit at the EMA to involve stakeholders and patients in particular, preparing training materials, videos, face-to-face training, considering the special needs of some patients. The allocation of adequate resources and budget, it needs resources to involve patients, knowing that all costs, travel and accommodation are covered, plus a daily allowance. And we have very clear and detailed rules for the involvement of patients and consumers, covering all aspects, which we can revise as often as needed. And we have also difficulties and challenges. On the next slide, you will see a few of them. There are not that many patients who can participate in these activities. We have the language barrier. All discussions at the EMA are in English. There is also the issue of being available. You need to be able to travel to London. And then there is the issue of the disease. Sometimes you want to participate, but then you feel sick and you can no longer. The time commitment, there are some activities like being member of a scientific committee, for example, the pharmacovigilance committee. We estimate the time it represents for the volunteers of 7 to 8 days per month. It includes 3 days at the EMA, but all the preparation, all the reading of all the documents at home. So it's quite a huge commitment. And this time is not paid. The dilemma we have sometimes, can we advise the company and can we be consulted by the EMA? This is often creating conflicts. So we have to have a clear policy to regulate these conflicts. The fact that the regulatory timelines are very fast and we need to be very reactive. A reality, younger patients are not really member of patient organizations. They gather much more often on social networks. So we have to think how ourselves, patient organizations, need to evolve to renew our members and to renew the patients who can work with regulators. And for the moment, another difficulty is that European institutions don't really evaluate the resources needed to involve civil society in its activities. So we are constantly struggling to find resources to organize it all the training, all the time we spent on finding patients. Without resources, it can really be a problem to succeed. Next steps, the improvement. This year in September, for the first time, the EMA will organize a public hearing on a safety issue with a product, and that will be an important transparency and improvement. We will also update the patient information, the package leaflet. We would like to test using graphic visualization and other changes which are needed in the leaflet that the patients read. There is an important initiative for breakthrough medicines called PRIME, where we also participate. And we would like to organize two-way communication between patients and the EMA, the regulators, national level and European level. For example, analyzing social networks. What do patients say about their medicines on social networks? And also the mobile application for patients to report adverse drug reactions and receive information from their authorities. And to conclude, I would say that patients are fully integrated in the centralized procedure for marketing authorizations in the EU, and we really participate with equal credibility as other experts. No question, we can really see our views duly taken into consideration. And we can act as members of the committees or consulted as external experts or representative of our organization. One difficulty is to evaluate, to measure the impact of this contribution. We have a working group which will soon make proposals so that we can better document on the impact for society, the impact for the work of the EMA to work with us. And on this, I will conclude my presentation, and thank you for listening to me.